All right, so this is part 3 and our conclusion of calling the n8n webhook with a more secure concept, right? We're using JWT in our examples, and obviously using a lot of Firebase from a web page to the Firebase function, right? And so we've seen this, right? We've got the reCAPTCHA and the app check, right, for all of our attestation. So our hosting is on Firebase. We have the security built in, and then we obviously call into our Firebase functions. And here, right, our function, because of the app check infrastructure on inside of Firebase, right, we have a high confidence that it is our website or our mobile app that's actually calling back into our actual Firebase function. Now, what we're going to do in this video is finish it off, and we're going to talk about the actual connection from the function using a JWT calling into our n8n webhook. So let's go ahead and dive into that code right now. Okay, so now taking a look over at n8n, if we look at our webhook, what I want you to notice really quick is that I have a JWT auth as the authentication, and then I have this JWT auth account, right? So all you're going to do is you're going to select that, and if I were to go over into edit, notice a couple of things here. First, the key type is a passphrase, and then the algorithm type is an HS256. Now, you may be wondering where I'm getting this from and what it was exactly that I pasted into the secret, right? Because when you first start this up, your secret's going to be blank, and that's what you're going to have to fill in. But you're going to want the key type as passphrase, and the algorithm is HS256. So what I did was I just went into JWT.io and basically just created just allowed them to have kind of a dummy single test JWT. And what I'm working with here, this secret down here, this is what I copied, and back over in n8n, that's what I pasted into the secret, okay? So for your n8n webhook, let me go ahead and get out of this. For your n8n webhook, that's all you really need. Any webhook will do. And all I have over here between the true and the false, right? And they both go to different spreadsheets, right? Just to have something to go to and go to anything that you want. But the true and the false in here, you'll notice that I have this JWT payload admin, and you might be wondering, hey, you know, where did he get that from? Well, here, when you run this actual execution, what you're going to get is you're going to get this JSON package. And so you can see that in the test JWT, I have admin as true, right? And so what does that mean? Well, when it's true, it's just going to go ahead and append a row to my sheet up here. And this is it just depends, name, email, message, right? That's all that is. It's just, again, just some kind of dummy data. But if you remember what we are sending to our Firebase function from our web app, it's the name, email, and message, right? And so I just put the name, email, and message into a spreadsheet. But that's if admin is true, right? Again, if admin is true, and when we look back at the JWT, I have admin set as true. This little pop-up is getting annoying. Now, what we need to talk about next is what we actually do with this value right here. All right, so what I want to address really quick is we've seen this code before, right? It's all the same stuff, right? Enforce app check, consume app check token, whatever. Now, what I've added in is one simple call, just to call the webhook, right? And it has our n8n endpoint URL, and I have this currently in a .env file. Along with the JWT token, I have that in the env file as well. And we talked about this, where this is the JWT token that we're looking at, right? This is the token that we send to the n8n endpoint. This is the secret that we paste into the configuration of the n8n webpoint or webhook, right? So with that, sorry about that. I just go ahead and call that. And what I have here, you'll notice I have this defined string. And this is the way that you read in from a .env file in the actual functions for Firebase. And in order for me to do that, I just had to pull in the Firebase function params, and you'll see that's where I get the defined string function. So this just allows me to read in from my .env file. Now, this call webhook, you'll notice I'm just passing in the data. Again, this is just the name, the email, and the message we're passing in from the website. I have my n8n webhook URL, and I have my JWT token. This call right here, call webhook, it's just a simple call right here. And you can see I just take the string. The string is just JSON stringified. The URL and the JWT token, no problem, right? That's a string, and a string. Now, here you can see I do the fetch, I do a post method, and right here, I pass in my JWT token as the bearer parameter for the header of the authorization header, right? Relatively straightforward, and then all I do is, if the response is bad from n8n, I return a bad result. But here's the the body of the data, again, name, email, message, nothing spectacular. But this call webhook is really absolutely trivial. So the only thing here that seems to kind of be a problem, potential problem, is I have this defined string for the JWT token. The defined string for the endpoint, that's fine. Reading the URL from an endpoint from my env file, I'm not too terribly worried about it. However, reading our JWT token from the .env file may or may not be something you necessarily want to do. So what we are actually going to move into now is leveraging the actual secrets manager of Google Cloud or in Firebase, and really, put our JWT token in a much more secure location than just our, .env file. And the way that we're going to do that, we already, have defined string. We're now going to do define secret. Okay? Now, all that we need to do with this JWT token right here is now say define secret. Now, right off the bat, that seems pretty straightforward. Not a big deal. However, we need to actually put this secret into our actual key manager within Google Cloud. So I'm going to kind of move my window around here really quick, and I'll be right back so we can look at the CLI a little bit more clearly. Okay, now we can see the actual terminal in our VS Code. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come over here to JWT.io, and I'm going to copy and paste our actual JWT token. Then I'm going to come back over to VS Code. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use the Firebase CLI and put our secret into the secrets manager. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to call Firebase. Then I'm going to call functions, right? Because that's the service we're actually using. Now I'm going to add in a secret. Incidentally, the the term in the functions is plural, but regardless. And now what am I going to do? What's the actual action? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a secret. And what secret am I going to set? This is the name, not the value, right? What's the name of the secret that I'm actually going to put in there? And in this case, it's going to be the JWT token. So here, right? I'm just using the same name for the secret that I already have in my .env file. You can name it whatever you want, just as long as you reference it correctly in the define secret call. So now that I have that, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to hit return. It's going to do a little bit of voodoo here. And now that we're actually here, all I'm going to do, because it doesn't show you the information on the screen, I'm just going to hit Command V to paste my token right here where it says enter a value for the JWT token. So I have now pasted it, but as you can see, you don't see anything, right? But I did paste it. I'm going to hit return. And there you have it. You can see that the token was actually created. Now what we're going to do really quick is we're going to go back and we're going to see how to verify that our secret was actually put in to our GCP cloud. All right, so one of the things that we need to do is go in and make certain that what we just set for our secret is actually what we were expecting it to be, right? And so here, just make certain that you're in the right project. Go to the hamburger menu, scroll down, you'll see security, and here scroll down once again, and you'll see secret manager. Click on that. And here you'll be able to see the name of the secret that you just created. Go ahead and click on it. And then here on the vertical 3 dots, click on that, view secret value. And here you'll see the actual value that you're going to read into your code. And here you can see that from our JWT token from earlier, right? If we look at this and then look at the JWT token here once again, you can see that it's correctly set. Right, and that obviously that's what we want. So once you verify that, then you can jump back into your code, which we're going to do here in a moment, and go ahead and actually execute it. And now you'll actually be able to have this this code or this JWT in your secrets manager, ingest it into your code. You don't have to worry about your .env for this. And the .env we're still going to leave the URL in the .env because whatever. But the JWT token, we definitely want to put into our secrets manager. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump back over to our code and go ahead and execute that and see what we wind up getting. All right, so that's pretty much about it, right? So looking back at our cloud function for Firebase, we have our defined string, and this is what we use to read in from the .env. And we have our defined secret, and this is what we use to read in from our secrets manager directly from GCP. So we've got the necessary imports, right? We do on call as opposed to on request. Here, this is where we actually go in and we pull out our secret, right? We have the name of the secret. We need to know that. We have the name of the entry in our .env. And so we pull in those two variables, right? We're just making them const here. And then here, when we actually make the call, right, we spoke about this, our maximum instances, so we don't, allow somebody to run this up to 3,000 or whatever it may be. And then from there, we enforce the app check, so we know that our attestation is actually in place. And we also have the consume out app check to make certain that the token, even if it is compromised, right, it's not used over and over again. And then all we do is we just make the call, right? We verify that everything is valid, and we didn't do anything here with the, is valid. You can put, whatever regex or whatever it is that you want in here. Obviously, ours just returns true, whatever. And then log it. We then go into actually calling our webhook, and here's where we pull in the value that we have stored in our .env file. And here's where we actually pass in the value that we have in our secrets manager. And we just call this function call webhook. which is right here, right? The URL that we pass in is the URL for our webhook in n8n. Then we pass in our JWT token, and we don't really do anything else. I mean, there's nothing spectacular here. It's just an await, it's a post. Our authorization is a bearer token. We pass it in the value of our JWT, type JSON, and I just pass the data directly in. So this is it. This is the totality of calling into our n8n webhook in a much more secure fashion than what's typically seen. Plus, we also know that anyone calling our Firebase function, we have that attestation in place, so our client's going to be much more secure. Just a lot more, couple of just extra layers that we put in place to go ahead and get everything in order. What we'll do next is I'm going to go ahead and deploy everything, and we'll do a quick walkthrough of everything and actually executing, and then we'll be done. One thing really quick that I need to point out is the secrets, and I forgot to put this in the code until I just ran into a problem. The secrets is it's a parameter that lets the function call know to actually access the secrets manager in the cloud, right? So when we're talking about the GCP secrets manager, in order for this function to know to even access it, it's not enough for whatever reason to say, hey, you're gonna look for this value in the secrets. You also need to set up this array and tell the function call which secrets it's actually going to use. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I do want to point out, make certain that you're using the variable name for this array, right? So you can see JWT token, not the name of the secret itself. So again, you want to use the actual variable in here for the secret. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. That was one thing I forgot to point out. So now we'll go ahead, get everything compiled and deployed, and we'll come back here to see it in action. All right, so here we are looking at our web page, looking at our webhook. We're going to go ahead and just start the execution. So now our n8n is actually up and running, waiting for that webhook to be called. So now we're just going to enter some data, whatever. Let's make it something I haven't done before. Some simple test message. All right, and let's go ahead and run it. So there it went, kicked off, everything was successful, ran this and wrote it to our spreadsheet. So the important thing here is you could see this running, and it really was from a JWT. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is all the information that we put into the function call, make certain that you never put that into your front end code, right? If you're doing something with Next.js, cool. But if you're doing something with, just kind of vanilla flavored JavaScript or React or Angular, whatever it may be, if it's on the front end, don't ever put that stuff in your front end, because your back end will be compromised immediately. So that's why we're looking at today, going back through the actual Firebase functions. So what we're going to do now is just take a real quick review, and we'll complete out the video. Okay, so we've seen this whole workflow in process, right, between our part 1, 2, and 3 of the video series. And one thing for this one, right, don't forget the secrets array where we put in our JWT, and we use that obviously for our n8n calls. Now, one thing just to keep in mind, right, JWTs, they're sometimes they're rotated inside of enterprise. So just you're going to have to work with your IT infrastructure on how frequently you want those JWTs to get updated or not. You can also use headers. Basically what the headers are is you just create your own headers and put in your own values. That works too, but you still run into kind of the same, more or less the same problem with if you want to rotate those headers out or not. So again, just kind of working with your IT infrastructure on how you want to rotate that out. I do believe that the n8n enterprise version has a feature where you can actually rotate JWT tokens. I think it's built in, but I don't believe that's on the cloud yet. So anyways, we've looked at this whole thing. Hopefully it helps somebody out there, just making your n8n a little bit more secure and your cloud infrastructure a little bit more secure. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you in the next series of videos. Take care, everybody.